Well, you know the Democratic Party used to be racist back in the day. I've been meaning to talk to you niggas about that. If you want to talk about history, let's talk about the complete history of it all. Yes, the Democratic Party used to be what we consider racist. And the Republican Party used to be on the side of what you would, well, actually, they weren't on the side of black people. It's true enough that back in the day, in the 1800s, the Republican Party was a party of, there was a part of big government. They bought about the Transcontinental Railroad. They bought about the state university system, Reconstruction. They also settled the West. The Democratic Party, they were the party of states' rights. Their alliance with the notion of states' rights made them support the southern states in slavery in the Civil War. They also didn't believe in a lot of government interference. They basically were the party of saying, hey, we want the government to stay up there and worry about themselves, and we in our states, we're going to do what we're going to do, whatever that looks like. Fast forward to the Civil War. The Civil War came about. We've seen a shift in what we would call the Republican and Democratic parties. Coming out of the Civil War, a lot of the Republicans got rich, very wealthy as a result of selling whatever the war needed. So the northern states became very rich and they were Republican aligned. The southern states were still, I don't want to call them poor, but the southern states were the southern states, as you know the South to be. And there was still racism, segregation, and all of that going on amongst the Democrats in the South. So during that time, let's not get it twisted. The Republican Party was not for the black people during that time either. During that time, the Republican Party basically said, hey, we'll let the South do what it do, and we're going to stay up here in the North. The Republicans of that time were doing very well for themselves until the Great Depression hit. When the Great Depression hit, President Hoover absolutely did nothing. Nothing. Remember, he was a Republican. Their party believed in small government. They believed that the government shouldn't do anything to, overall influence the people. Those Republicans that had made their money, they made their money, and they felt that the government shouldn't do anything. So Hoover didn't do anything. You know what happened? Hoover got booted out of the White House. Insert Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt, who's a Democrat, he came in with the New Deal. The New Deal, it basically saved America from the Great Depression. The New Deal saved America, but it started to show a shift in the ideologies of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. We had a Republican president get voted out of office because he didn't want to do anything to help the United States in the midst of the Great Depression, only to be replaced by a Democratic president who put in a New Deal that basically revolutionized the United States of America. So we've seen the Republican Party start to splinter and shift in its ideology around that time. Fast forward to the Civil Rights Act and Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. 1964, Lyndon B. Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act. The Republican nominee for president, he was against the Civil Rights Act. So what we saw during that time was black people align themselves with the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party was showing itself to say, hey, understand where we started at, but we know where we want to go as a country, and to go that place as a country, we're going to need you. And you need to have proper rights. Lyndon B. Johnson got the Civil Rights Act passed, and that shifted the ideology completely of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Because not only with the Civil Rights Act being passed, also came legislation geared at prayer in schools, legislation geared at abortion. The Republicans and the Democrats started to split. Black people started to support the Democratic Party a lot more because they seen the Democratic Party had their best interests in mind. White people, they went on to the Republican Party because they were still mad at the New Deal. A lot of them were mad because the South had gotten equality for the blacks. And a lot of those Southern whites were mad that those blacks had gotten equality. So they went to the Republican Party. So it's not a thing of we were always indoctrinated. In 64, about 60 years ago, black people said, hey, what do you got for me? Democrats said, hey, we got the Civil Rights Act. Republicans said, you don't need that. It's not rocket science, people. This notion that black people have been indoctrinated to vote Democrat, it's all hogwash. This comes about because we as a community, we stop going around our family. We start going to the family reunions. We start taking those trips to the other states to see family, distant relatives. We stop taking our kids to see grandma, grandpa, auntie so and so, uncle so and so. And those interactions is where the stories of the Civil Rights Act and how it impacted Black America are shared. The stories of the trials and tribulations that our ancestors went through are shared. And when we don't have those interactions, we don't have that information and we disconnect from the past. So that's how Black people got to be voting Democrat. It's not no lifelong thing. The Democrats just align their morals and values with what we, needed at that time. And if you look at the times now, it's kind of mirroring those times. I want to touch on Black Republicans for a minute because Black Republicans are the ones that normally push this narrative, and we got to let them know that that's not the truth, and we don't believe that. The reality is, when you look at most Black Republican politicians on any level, they rarely, if ever, represent districts that look like them. And that's not because Black people are programmed to not like the Republican Party. It's because Black people are hearing the message that you are putting out there and they're not agreeing with it. Black people are seeing the legislation and the policies that you're supporting and they don't like and they do not like it. It's not because, like I said, it's not because we're programmed. We're seeing these things, we're using our brains, and we don't support them. Peace.